admire and look at. And there's sort of lots going on in that space. It's moving really quickly, but it's already at the point where this is an enterprise level technology, but also it's a personal level technology that you can just use to build stuff really fast. So let's jump right in and talk about Jamstack. Oh, by the way, I'm on Twitter at Joel Vardy. Jump in, join the conversation. Okay, Jamstack 101.0. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today in this workshop. We're going to get you on a free Agility account so that we can, part of the thing is, I'm not just trying to teach about how to use Jamstack, but how to use Jamstack with a CMS, because that really takes it to the point where as a developer, you're focusing on the code as opposed to the content. And let's get the content in a CMS. Don't need to worry about that stuff. We're going to use NPM to get all the CLI level tools that we need and everything like that. We're going to get things running locally in a local development environment. And I will be going through this with you. So you can follow along. You can either create an Agility account now, or you can follow along and do it later if you're sort of, have this in a side screen window or something. But I encourage you to follow along. We're going to push this up to GitHub. So we're going to actually get it running locally. We're going to clone a repo. We're going to push it up to GitHub. We're going to deploy it for free on Vercel.com. So not only does Agility CMS have free tools, Vercel has some free tools that we can take advantage of to push this up and to work with, to get stuff actually on a server and get through the full sort of DevOps pipeline. Vercel really makes DevOps easy. They're one of the things that they do is they just take the deploy and build and host thing. They just do it. It's just taken care of. It's awesome. And we're going to get preview working. One of the sort of main challenges with Jamstack is preview, because Jamstack sites tend to be static sites. How do we preview a static site with something that hasn't been published yet, hasn't been built? We're going to show you how to do that. We're working on basically Next.js 9.4, which basically has preview built in, and then we've hooked up Agility to work with that. We're going to talk a little bit about how Next.js works and what its sort of claim to fame is. It's been around for a while, but how it's working and how the later versions of it's working. So we'll actually dig into the code to show that. We're going to talk about Agility CMS content and pages. So pretty much every CMS out there allows you to get content, right? Some kind of API. Everyone's using headless CMSs these days. If you're not using a headless CMS, you should be, which is basically an API-driven CMS. But Agility is different because it gives you pages as well, and the ability to put pages on a sitemap and assemble the content that goes on each page. And it actually makes it even easier as a developer to focus on the code and not the content. And I really believe this is the future of web development. It's how it really should be done. And I'll show you how that works. And we'll look at some deployment options for how you can do this. One of the things you can do is build the site locally and just upload files manually to like Amazon S3 or Azure Blob Storage, something like that. But we're really going to focus on Vercel.com as the best deployment option for Next.js sites. Without a doubt, it's the easiest to get going on, and we're going to show you that today. By we, I mean me. It's just me. Here we go. All right, let's do some diagrams. So DevOps 101 for static site generation. We have some kind of code, we have some kind of content. In this case, the content's coming from Agility CMS, could be coming from anywhere. We have something like a build server, and that is going to output static HTML, CSS, JavaScript, font files, whatever that we need is going to be output from that build server, okay? So this is, as opposed to like a PHP site or something like that, where you're going to have a web server, or an ASP.NET site, you would have a web server, and usually more traffic, you need more web servers. That is where your code is executing at runtime. In this case, our code's executing at build time. Totally different way of looking at the world. What's really cool about static sites is that now we can just, as I said, put them somewhere, anywhere, any online storage service, and then put them behind a CDN. Well, what's really cool about something like Vercel is that it takes all that and does the build. It does the storage, it does the CDN, and it's instant and it's awesome. So it takes away, DevOps with static site generation, it can seem like, oh my gosh, I'd love to do that, but the DevOps are really complicated. It's hard to get set up. Tools like Vercel make that super easy. It basically takes away that difficulty. And we'll see how that works today. By the way, just a reminder, do use the chat. Do use the I have my hand up thing that you can do. I'm keeping an eye on that. I have that in another window. I will try to get to it as quick as I can. I'm not looking at the questions yet. There's also a Q&A panel. I don't have that open. I do have it open now. So chat me, Q&A me, stop me, start me. If you have a problem as we go, you know, or a question, please do stop. Okay. Static sites with Next.js and Vercel. So how does this actually work? It's a very similar diagram to what we just went through. So you have Agility CMS gives you the content and pages. Don't be confused about the pages in Agility. That's not HTML pages. It's a JSON object that has the information about the page in it. And it gives me a sitemap with those as well. But also we could be pulling in other data from other APIs, and it is a database icon, but really it should be from any API. So for instance, if I wanted to pull in, you know, products from Shopify, from like the Headless Shopify APIs, I could be pulling that in. I could be pulling in something from anything. Okay, so we're gonna wanna combine and figure out all the data that we need. The trick is that that is then combined, and we're gonna use React code and Node.js code that's gonna be built, and Vercel is gonna do the build for us. And then it's going to take the build output and give us, it's like an atomic build, right? So it's going to have an ID, and each build is going to have its own address that we can use. And then there's going to be like the latest build. And so that's taken care of. So each one of those things has basically a folder full of static HTML, CSS, JS files that we can work with. Okay, so that's for like the regular static site generation. This is new to a lot of people, but this is kind of run of the mill. Everybody can do this. Vercel just does a great job at doing the build and deployment process and setting my variables. And actually you can build other kinds of Jamstack sites with Vercel as well. It doesn't have to be a Next.js site. Pretty much any node site you can build on there. So pretty cool. But this is the cool part that's beyond just being able to do static sites. And I talked about this before, it's preview. How do I do preview with what is normally a static site type of thing? So again, I have my content, my pages, my extra data. This will be the same React code. If we're good, we can use the same code to preview. And then what happens with Vercel is it runs in this serverless function automatically. So we have a little bit of code that flips it into preview mode. And what happens is, you know, it does a little bit of magic under the covers there, and then gives us the preview output of something. So, you know, in Agility, there's the ability to have content that's in like staging mode and this published mode. So in preview, I'm gonna be able to see the staging content that's before it's published, right? So I can see what my content's gonna look like before it actually goes through the legit build process. So this is, to me, if you're talking about, you know, working with, you know, as web developers, yeah, we're all good at coding, and some of us have more of an eye for design than others and whatnot. But it's like, hey, it works on my machine. What really makes you a real web developer is you work with someone who's like your client or your customer that you're building this for. And then isn't it great if you can kind of give control to them to do the content for that, to create the content and to maintain that site that you built as a developer. So as a developer, I want to focus on the code, not the content. It's kind of a broken record there, but and then preview really enables, it empowers your editors to be able to work with your code and their content, and just sort of make it so it's not as much of a black box to them. Whereas like, because what happens is you don't want to be, as a developer, you don't want to be maintaining the CMS. You want to maybe set it up first time, give it to your customer, your client, or whoever you're building this for. It could be your parents doing your website, or it could be, you know, a friend, whatever. They're still your client, right? But you give that to them, they look after it, and you're done. So we want that. We want to get to that as quickly as possible. Anyway, enough of me talking about stuff. Let's actually get started and actually look at building some of this stuff. Cool. All right, so I'm going to share my entire second screen. I do hope that you can see everything that you need to. We don't need PowerPoint anymore. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to, you guys want to keep an eye on the chat because I'm going to send a couple things through to the chat. Excuse me, to help you get started, okay? So this is all going to focus around basically cloning a Git repo to get started. All right, so I'm going to shoot you this. You're going to do this, Git clone, and you know, you folks are probably better at Git than I am. So you're going to run this command in a folder somewhere, okay? Git clone that. So I'm going to go and do it as well. All right, so let's make sure that I'm in the right place. When you run git clone, it will create a folder for you called Next.js Agility Sync. That's cool. So you're going to basically cloning my repo. Git clone. There you go. So it should pull down, doesn't take very long. And now we can actually open that folder in, I'm using Visual Studio Code. I encourage you to use that as well. Otherwise, I will get confused if you ask me questions, if you're using something weird. But if you're using something weird, I guess that you're probably really good at using that and you'll be telling me how to do things. So I'm gonna use VS Code. I'm actually gonna use my terminal built into VS Code as well, just because I like to have it all there, but you can do it however you want. So if we open this up, hopefully you guys are all there. Not very hard to get things cloned. You'll see that there's a README file that has basically the steps that we're going to be following today. And I got too many chat windows over here. Let's move this to that window. There we go. Okay, so those are on my second screen. Hopefully I can keep an eye on everything over here. Okay, we all good so far? Hopefully you're caught up with me. Let's move that over here too. All right. Let's just, as I walk through here, let's use the preview mode. Okay, so first thing we want to do, we clone the repo, right? We called git clone. Nice. Let's do an npm install. So what that does, let's actually copy some text. All right, we're going to run npm install in there. I hope you have npm installed and I hope you have Node installed. I'm running Node 12. But if you need to update stuff, that's fine. The last webinar we did, the last workshop, we had some folks that had to like update some stuff. If this works for you, then you should be all good. I'm just taking a quick look at the package.json to show you what's actually being used here. So there's basically a couple of agility libraries that does this. I'm actually using Tailwind's UI for the actual design and stuff. Catherine, yes, that was you. And I was so impressed that last time Catherine, who is actually in this webinar as well, she was able to actually catch up with us even after having to like reinstall Node. So that was really cool. By the end of the workshop, she's like, I caught up with you guys. I got it all done. So that's cool. Anyway, back to the dependencies. So we're using a few different things. The biggest one, Next. This is obviously between Next and Agility are the two biggest things that are in here that are doing work. And we're on, I think, the latest version of Next, although there might be another minor version since 9.4. We're using PostCSS and of course React, and Tailwind CSS is under. So Tailwind CSS/UI is like their UI project, which I've started playing with just their free components because I'm not a designer. So it's like, hey, I'm going to steal your design system and I'm going to put it into here. And I did get permission from the, by the way, I encourage you guys to check out Tailwind's UI and to use the full versions. I'm only demonstrating the free giveaway stuff, and I do have permission from them to do that. But I also would like to recommend you guys check out Tailwind's UI. And I'm not affiliated at all with Tailwind CSS, by the way. In fact, I actually suck at it. So I'm hoping that you guys can help me learn more how to use Tailwind CSS, or tell me to maybe use something else if you think there's something else that's better. Okay, so we've got that installed all there. Cool. By the way, there's a bunch of scripts in here. The normal ones are these dev, build, export, deploy. These are basically when you do like create next app or next, I can't remember what actually the create script is. It gives you those. These are saying all the way and start. These are new. I created these guys, and I'm not actually super great with Node, but what this does, this is going to actually pull down my CMS content. So the claim to fame of this project is it does a synchronization of your CMS content so that your site is really fast, both in preview and when you're building it. And we'll see how that works as we go through. But let's keep following the steps here. Okay, so we need to modify our .env. So we need to sign up for, I skipped a step, sign up for the Agility blog starter. Okay, I will click this. Hang on, I'm gonna copy this. Copy this link, and I'm going to open it myself in a incognito window because I'm already logged in. So I want to make sure that you guys see what I see. So this is it here. Go there. That's how you get your free account. Okay. Fill out like everything that you need to do for that. Create your password, and it should take you through and just give your thing a name. Okay. So it'll be like, well, here, I'll just do it. Oh, I just try and spell my name right. And if you already had a free account, you want to get another one, you can just basically do your Gmail plus, whatever date is. If you guys know about that trick. We don't mind if you do that. We are going to be shutting down accounts that are like idle for a long, long time, but we don't care if you do a few. We want people to be, you know, experimenting and doing stuff. Okay, so once you get through the initial sign up, basically give yourself a project name. So, you know, you can use July 25, you can use Next.js, you can use My Portfolio, you can use what you're creating now for a real website, by the way. I encourage you to do that. Sign that up, you're gonna click submit, and it will take you through. I'm not gonna create a new one because I already have, I don't know how many hundreds of free accounts. I created this one back in June 4th when I was doing the previous setup. So, and I think that if you have an old account, it should work. If you had done a free account before, you should just be able to hook into that. And that will take you to here. So at that point, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna hope that you folks can, you know, catch up with me on that to see where you're at. There's about 20 folks on the line right now. So I'm gonna just give you a sec to get through all that, and hopefully everything's okay. Maybe when someone's done, they can just give me a, I get it, I'm there. The one bad thing about webinars is that I can't tell what you guys are doing. I just kind of hope that you're kind of out there. Thumbs up. Yes. Okay. Tony's good. We're doing this. I'm going to move forward. So the next thing you want to click on is API keys. Okay. So this is a little interesting. So you can actually click on this try it out thing, and that's how you test out your content API. Agility is not a website builder. All it is a content API that gives you pages, content, and like media and stuff. Okay, that's what Agility does for you. Agility is basically, we like to help folks build websites because we love that. Okay, so we need to be able to get our content out of there. So let's click show on both of these guys. So we're going to need our good. So that's important. So then back to our project here, what you're going to do is rename env.example to env.local. Okay. And so Next.js is really good in 9.4, especially. Let's actually open move that over here. It actually automatically reads our environment files, so we don't have to. There was at one point, there was like a Zeit.json or something, like there was like specific config files, and the Vercel has one as well, but you don't need to use that. You can just use environment variables, and I prefer an env file. And actually, and you can see that it's grayed out because that's in my git ignore, I'm ignoring env.local. So we need to grab that. We need to grab the live API key, which is also the fetch API key. Okay, paste that under fetch. The preview key is here, so we'll copy that. And then there's this other one called the secret key. And this is new for us, for Vercel. So this is an old school key that will eventually change how this works. But for now, you're going to need to get that. So you go to your settings and go to global security, and there's this other key that's there. Okay. So that's an old school way of, but what that's going to be used for is actually validating that when someone clicks preview, that it's real, that they're actually previewing from Agility. Because what happens is this security key is like a hash is created, and that goes into your URL, and we want to basically double check that that hash is valid. So we're going to go ahead and use that. So here we go. Got the security key. We got these 4 values. Now we're ready to rock. So we have those. So we modified env.example, placed the good API keys and security key in there. Brilliant. Now we should be able to do this command that you would never have run before. And I'm actually going to split my my terminal window so I can have 2. I'm going to call npm run CMS pull. What that's going to do is it's actually going to go up to Agility, and it's going to pull down all my files and put them in a folder underneath here. Okay. Well, where was that new key? Good call. So you click on settings. So the little gear, by the way, you guys won't have this because this is like my Uber admin because I work for Agility. So settings is probably the one that you'll see. Go to settings and then global security, which is here. And then copy the security key. All right. Hopefully you're with me, and hopefully for everybody, you saw something like this. So you can sell it. It actually does a bunch of stuff in the console. Hey, I'm pulling down some items. You probably have like 11 or 12 items. I have a few more because I already created some in my thing, and then it pulls down whatever. So this is how it keeps in sync. What's awesome now is I can run this locally and I don't have to wait for it to pull any content down because it already did it. I'll npm run dev. And you'll see, by the way, when I take you through the code of this project, you'll see that you don't have to do it this way. You could sync it like on every request or whatever, lots of different sort of ways to do that. Okay, so now I have this localhost 3000. You can either click on it or copy and paste it up into your rusty trusty browser up here. Here, let's hide bookmarks so we don't need to look at those. Okay. Wow. Okay. There we go. All right. So it should pull it in. It takes a second to sort of build everything the first time. But yeah, you see you have a site that kind of looks, it's kind of fun. It has, you know, we can see we've got like logo up here. We've got a menu. These buttons here that I can tell by looking down at the thing that they're just like placeholders. And we've got this is our Jumbotron module. And we've got some other content. It looks like we've got some blog posts in here. You might not have as many blog posts just because the default doesn't ship with that many. But this is a pretty cool responsive design too. So again, that has nothing to do with agility. That's just this template that we showed. And actually this should be working too with the sort of mobile menu. So I have to say I stayed up late last night and coded this up to make it look like something that's pretty decent. And if you guys wanted to use this as a starter for your actual blog or your portfolio or something like that, you totally can. There you go. Okay, so I'm just gonna, hopefully everyone's okay with the npm run dev to run it locally. I'm just gonna pause until somebody says, I'm there, I got it. To make sure that I don't, you know, jump ahead too far and lose folks. Do we need to change the name of the .m file? You sure do. You're going to name it env.local. And that's a standard thing from Next.js. So Next.js basically lets you do M files, and there's a bunch of different namings you can use for .m files for different like deployments. But for this one, for local, env.local is fine. So once you do that, you have your GUID, fetch, and your preview key and all that sort of stuff. You should be good to roll. And then if you want to run, if you're sort of bored and hanging around, you want to run npm run deploy. What that does is that's going to actually run it and do a production build for it. And you'll see as this one scrolls through, I'll just make it a little bigger here. It's going to create an optimized production build of the React site. And then it's going to build all of the things. Well, do we need to change the name of the .m file? I'm getting an error when running npm run CMS pull. Okay, what's the error? Oh, it failed. Okay. Preview URL redirection. Oh, that's a weird one. Node env is not recognized as internal command. That's weird. What version of Node do you have? You can run, I think it's that. I'm running Node 12. I don't think you need Node 12. I think it'll run on 10, but Tony's on Node 14. Is it working okay for you, Tony? Nope. Darn. Same. Is everyone getting the same problem? This same fetch errors? Oh, sorry. I thought that was from. Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize that was from you, Tony. Is that a new? I should say. Is it a new account, Tony, or is this one that you had from before? Brand new account? Well, that's strange. Let's see if I can reproduce it. Hang on. Let me just jump in real quick and create a brand new account myself and see if I can reproduce that problem. Wow. So when you want to clear everything up, run CMS clear. All right, so let's see how quick I can get this going. Hopefully I can reproduce the problem and then fix it. So I have the live key, which I actually don't need the live key to work locally, but I do need it to do the full build. Preview key. Oh, geez. I actually don't need a security key just yet, so I'll just leave that one for now. Let's see if I can run. Oh, interesting. All right, you know what? I'm going to guess that that is looking for URL redirections that we maybe don't have. So why don't you jump into the settings section? And this could be a new thing. We actually just added support for URL redirections, and it could be that something's going on weird there. So just add like, let's just go and add a test one, because it could be that if it doesn't have anything in, then it's kind of saying you should. So let's see how that goes. So add that, wait a couple seconds. Maybe it'll work. Oh, that's all it was. Wow, that's a bug. I'll have to report that to my team. You have to go create a URL redirection. Looks like it doesn't like it if there aren't any yet. Okay, I'm going to undo my changes here. Oops. So I can work with this guy again. Okay, so that's a little bit of extra step. Apologies for that. I should have tested that all the way. Okay. So now I'm back. Clear. CMS clear. CMS pull. So the way I figured that out, by the way, anytime you come into a project and you're like, I'm not sure how to run this thing. If you go into, anytime you're running any NPM project, so it has a package.json, check the scripts folder, and I can run npm run and then any of these commands. So I ran CMS clear, which is basically just going to go in and look into this file and run like, and pass it the clear or the sync argument. There may be better ways to do this. I don't know. I'm still getting the error. Just try it again, actually, Shay. Is it Shay or Shy? Not sure. Whoever is using window, place, and in front of development in CMS commands in package. I'll place ampersand in front of development in CMS commands in package.json. So this was the thing. I'm just going to replace that. So this is from Jesus Gill. He said that. So whoever's using Windows, place ampersand in front of development and CMS commands in the package.json. I'm a Mac guy. Didn't know about that. Thank you. Okay. So I think I'm good. So the cool thing is if you run npm run CMS pull like twice, you should get no changes after you're going through there. Like being embarrassed, shy. Okay, shy. That's good. Nice. All right. Seems to be all fine now. Wow, that's fun. Okay, cool. All right, we're back. We're back on track. Here we go. Back to the README for a sec. What was the next thing? So yeah, npm run dev. So hopefully that will work for folks. I'm going to go back to that one, run that one. And then, so yeah, it starts the server really fast and you can say, hey, I loaded your environment variables from .env.local. And then if you jump back to the site, you should be able to get the site up and running. It's all good. Once you've got that running, one of the things I'd like to test is to make sure we can actually update some content in the CMS and see that reflected down here. Okay, so real quick, jump back to your tab that has the content manager. We're going to click to pages. So by the way, this thing, you just hover over it, go to pages. I voted for a new icon for here, by the way. And hopefully that will happen soon where we get a sitemap icon. I think that's what we should be using on pages. Anyway, go to your homepage, open that up, and you can see now this is a page. Pages have multiple modules on them. And I'm going to dig through how this actually works first in a second, but just open up the one called Jumbotron. And you see you've got, using Agility CMS heart. Let's just type in anything. I type in Next.js. Wait a second. I go down here and go run pull again, and I should be able to see that content change come through. So yeah, updated one item there, so that's good. And then I should be able to go here and it's refreshing. Mine seems to be frozen up. How embarrassing. I don't know what's happened right here. I shouldn't have to restart, but I'm going to restart because I think something else happened. I don't know. Of course, when I was testing it earlier, it worked fine without having to restart. Wow. Okay, I'm having 0% fun right now. Here we go. Okay. So here's me saying, it's going to be super fast in preview mode. You only have to wait in front of 25 people for 10 minutes. Okay, so there you go. We have the updated thing in there. That's good. Phew. Hopefully everyone else is at that same spot and we're all good. Success. Nice. Okay, cool. Normally it's faster. One of the things that's cool as you click through here, if we just click through to the different things, you can see that it doesn't have to do a full page reload. So the way Next.js works in the background is it generates the HTML for your page and brings it to you, and then it rehydrates it as a React app. So now I'm in a React, kind of like a single page application for any of the links that were created specifically to allow that. And what I've done is I've created that here. So I'm going to walk through how all that happened in the background. I think that's what's the next thing in my thing. So we run it locally. Oh yeah, we can test static builds. So when you run npm run deploy, that's going to run and it's going to output everything in the out folder. Okay, I already ran this. You don't have to do it, but this is how you test. The only real reason to do this, and as far as I'm concerned, is to test to make sure that what you just did in your code locally isn't going to break the production build before it gets to, GitHub or whatever. You don't have to do this. I just run it sometimes, but you can actually see the HTML that it created. Here's my about page. And you can actually see what it got done there. And if you want to run it and test against this with like a local static HTML server or HTTP server, you can do that. We're not going to do that as part of this. Okay, cool. So that was that. Oh, where's my README again? Sorry. All right, so now, oh yeah. So before we actually dig into too much of the code, I actually wanted to get the full circle of this going before we did that. So we're going to actually go to GitHub and create a new repo. So I'm going to do this with you folks. So I have my repo here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one so you guys can follow along as I do this. So I'm going to new repository. I'm going to call this July, or actually we're not in July, it's June. Time has no meaning. I think it's 25th. This is my third time doing this today. Create the repo. Okay, cool. We're going to run git init. In there. We're going to do that. And actually, we're going to run a command to reset the remote origin. So I'm going to run git remove rm origin. And then I'm going to do git remote add origin with this guy. So this is basically this is some Git stuff, and I am not a Git like superhero by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm sure that a lot of you folks are better with Git commands than I am. So now I'm going to hook it up to my repository. I'm going to git push, and I'm going to use the word main here. Here we go. So git push -u main origin main. Boom. That should push everything up, except for obviously you're not your m.local, because that is under the git ignore. So if we refresh now here, success. Okay, so now we have that. I'm going to keep on trucking. Hopefully you're all good. If there's any questions, please stop me if I'm going too far ahead. Here we go. We're gonna actually deploy this to Vercel. Okay, we're gonna go on Vercel. So you go to vercel.com. Let me just do this in a new window because I'm already logged in, so it's kind of hard to show. So vercel.com and click log in, and you can just go continue with GitHub. That's the easiest way to do it, and it'll just start. All right, so you continue with GitHub, and it'll ask you to log into GitHub, which you already are, so it'll be fast. Okay. Once you get done there, you basically click on like import new project. Boom, and then you'll get to this screen. Okay, it's also vercel.com/import. You click continue, and then you're gonna have the URL of your repo that you just created. You pop that in there. And it should work. There may be a screen at some point where it asks you to like install the Vercel app in GitHub. I can't remember. I installed that on mine a long time ago. But what that actually looks like in GitHub is on your profile. I'm going to go through mine. And on your settings, edit profile. Can't remember where this is now. No, not there. Sorry. My settings down here. Apologies. And applications. So what that actually does is Vercel, I also use Gatsby Cloud, but Vercel is an application. So that gets installed, and you can tell it to have permission to one or more repositories. I just checked off all repositories because it just makes it easier. So there you go. So I can't remember what point that gets installed, but I know it's in there somewhere. So we got here. All right. So hopefully we're at this point, and you have now these build and output settings, but you don't need to do anything here. You don't need to touch this because it figured out, hey, it's Next.js. It's all good. But environment variables we still do have. Now what's really cool is Next.js has this like deploy URL that you can do. So very, very soon I will be able to send you something where it actually will default these for you. I didn't get that done for today because that's some brand new stuff. I'm not even sure if I can talk about that yet, but they're looking at doing some stuff where the Vercel team, where you can basically default all of these based on a URL. So hopefully we'll get to that soon, but we're not there yet. So for now, again, much of our life as a developer is copying and pasting. So we're going to copy and paste the same variables that we had in our environment file into here. Click add. It's a race now. Who can do it the fastest? Do, 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 do. La, la, la. All right. And actually the security key, you didn't even need to put in this one. We only needed it here online because preview mode is only for on the server. But now we have it. We're all good. Hopefully you're with me. I hope you're with me. I'm going to click deploy. This is where the magic happens. So now Vercel is going to do a deployment for me. Okay, and the first one's the one that takes the longest time. It's going to go and pull stuff from GitHub. It's going to basically run npm run build and then deploy. And that's pretty much what it does, but it has some special stuff that it does in the background too, because this project actually has some API functions in there as well. So you can have, it's kind of interesting, a Next.js site is a static site, yes, and we want most of our site to be a static site, but every site has more things that it needs to do. We need to be able to like submit things to a server. We need to be able to do post commands. So you can build that right into your Next.js site with the /API, and we'll see that in a second. And we can debug those. Those are called serverless functions, basically. So not only does it, deploy and build everything out, you can see here, it did all of my static pages, but you can see here, we've got the Lambda symbol. It actually there's 3 API endpoints that we have on this site. One for basically going into preview mode. Oh, okay, jump past my log. Going into preview mode, exiting preview mode, and generating a preview key. So here, and then we can click visit. And we are fast. So we all have a vercel.app location in here now that we can see, but actually it gives you a bunch of different things. So let's go open in dashboard as well. So I think this, yeah, so like I have a June 25th-3.vercel and I have .joelvardy.vercel. So there's a bunch of different URLs you can use to access this thing. What I'm gonna do is copy this, okay? Catching up, okay. So I'm a little ahead. I'm gonna give you guys some time to catch up with me here. Actually, while you're doing that, I'm just gonna go through Vercel just a little bit. And this is standard Vercel stuff, but they've been making tons of updates to this, to their support in here, and they're going fast and furious. So this is pretty great. If I need to change it in my settings, I can go through and do that in here. So my environment variables, if I've typed them in wrong, this is where you can come in and fix them. You can update lots of different stuff. There's security, there's advanced. We are on, and yeah, there's like a bunch of stuff you can do once you get onto like advanced use cases, and this stuff is beyond even me. I don't know how all of it works just yet, because I'm on just a free account as well. But one of the cool things is they actually do DNS as well, so you can actually have your DNS come right through Vercel and do that all in here. So you can actually buy the domain on Vercel if you want to do it there, which is pretty great. Or transfer it over, and then that actually has, you know, you don't have to have like, hey, my site's hosted here and there, and my DNS is there, and CDN's over here. It's like it brings it all into one place to do all the things you need to do. So I really like that about it. And remember how we talked about each deployment has its own thing, its own like sort of placeholder. So this is the first deployment, okay? And if I click on this deployment, it gives me a preview of that. It gives me the log, but you can see I've got functions here. So if I'm debugging this deployment's functions, I click here, and then you just basically, so if I had a bunch of functions that were there, I could actually see what's happening. And then I can see the source code for this guy too, the source code and the output. So you can go through and see what actually is happening in here. So pretty cool. Very, very neat thing that it does. Okay, I'm hoping you guys are caught up with me now. And I go back to here. So you kind of get used to navigating through your projects on these things. Hope I got the settings right. Me too, Tony. I can tell you this, I've done it wrong a lot of times. Actually, I kind of like this site. I'm gonna jump over to Tailwind's UI for a sec. So Tailwind UI, if you can see, this is like pretty new. And this is where I went to the free sample components. So Tailwind CSS doesn't come with any components. It's just like, it's a utility library pretty much. And then they have samples for application UIs, as well as, I don't know where it is. I'm kind of lost in the navigation here for a second, as well as sort of what they call the marketing UIs. Hang on. I'll preview the marketing components. All right, so the hero section, there's one that looks like, that's where, so hey, it looks familiar, right? And I actually changed it a little bit to pull this out of that and to put it in its own thing to make it a little easier for me to code with. But yeah, you can see that I literally just went here, copied this code, and popped it in. And there's a lot of CSS, so you know, it would have taken me a little time to do all that. So thanks to the Tailwinds guys. Tailwind UI folks for letting me use the free components on this to show you guys. Okay. All right. Looks like Tony's there. I'm hoping Shai and the rest of you folks are with us too. Okay. Now, what you need to do is on the main page of your site here. Okay. You have this visit URL. So basically click there, copy that URL. Okay, so this is like the main URL that Vercel created for my app. Okay, copy that to your clipboard. Because we're going to take it into the Agility settings section. Because we want to set up, we're basically getting preview working now, right? So we need to tell Agility, where is this thing deployed? So take me into the settings section. We're going to go into what's called domain configuration. Okay, a lot of headless CMSs, they don't have any idea of like it's deployed somewhere. And Agility, while it doesn't have a website inside of it, it has the ability for you to have like automatic preview settings, okay? So you don't have to build a plugin to do previews, is what I'm trying to say. So there will be a domain configuration created for you called website, all right? And you can see I've been doing this multiple times. So you go into website domains, open the one that's there, if there's one there, or add a new one, okay? And just call it whatever you want. You can call it Vercel, you can call it live, you can call it preview, I don't really care. All you need to do is put that in and put the domain URL in. Okay, should look something like this. And then click preview domain. You can production domain if you want to, because it's like, there's only one right now. Okay, there you go. And you should see something that says, this is the preview domain, whatever. So now when I click preview in Agility, it will go to that domain, all right? And this is the magic piece that is like, makes me really happy about working with Vercel. So I'm gonna go to my homepage now. I hope you're all caught up with me. Prod version, you said? Yes, production deployment. So grab your production deployment URL, which will be here. So if you go to your project and you click overview and then click visit, it'll open the production URL. Copy that, take it to the settings section, go to domain configuration. I have done this so many times, I just walk through it in my sleep, but go to here, open up the website domain configuration, and then just basically add a website domain. If there's one there already, I don't remember if it ships you with a default one. I can't remember. You can get rid of the one that's there. It doesn't really matter. Okay. And then go back to your pages section, open up any page that you want, and click preview. So this will open up a new window. If you're in Safari, it might fart at you and say, I don't want to open up a new window, because you may have to click some stuff to get new windows to work. But you can see I have this bar that comes up top now. You're in preview mode. Share your preview URL or exit preview mode. So there's some special stuff in Next.js 9.4. I think it started. It's brand new for preview mode. So now I can actually preview the edit version of this page. And you can see this has the word Next.js in it. So if I go and change this, take it, 1, 2, 3, click save. Okay, wait a second. I'm just going to refresh this guy. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, super fun. So that's how your content folks can work with your website in preview mode. And obviously, and if I exit preview mode now, I'm going to go back to the live version of the production or published version of this page. Pretty great, right? So that's awesome. No webhook to force refresh. Not in preview mode yet. Not that I know of, but we do have a webhook for publish mode. Okay, so let's set up that. So in here, I have to remember where this is. Go to your project settings. I think it's under advanced. No, don't go to advanced. Deploy hooks, sorry, go to Git integration. Okay, so the thing here that we want to do is we want to basically kick off a build when somebody publishes something in the CMS in Agility, okay? So in this one, it actually gives you the ability to create different hooks for different branches. So I could actually have, and there's a bunch of different ways you could force this one, but this one, let's just call this one publish or deploy or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter. Click create hook, oops. And I think the branch was named main. Cool. Trigger deployment of a given branch. Cool, I think I did that right. Okay. Remember, I think the name of the branch was main. So now, I'm just going to double check something for a second here. Default branch. Yeah, the default branch I'm pretty sure is called main. Hopefully I did that right, but I'll soon know. Back into the settings section of Agility, we have this thing that looks like a plug called webhooks. We go there. I've already got one set up to one of my projects, but I'm going to add another one. So the URL, I paste that in there. And by default, it checks off received content published events. Okay, and actually I can test it by clicking send test payload. So let's just save that so I have it first. And I click send test payload. Oops, I did it twice. And I just created 2 builds. So if I go into here now, you can see it's building. So I can actually go into deployments. I think I queued up a main one. So I'm going to actually cancel the one that I queued. Cancel. Because there's no point doing an extra build for no reason. Okay. So this one is building. And actually, I can watch the logs for it. And you can see it's got its own URL. So it comes through. And I just want to take a look at something as this comes through. We'll see that I don't think I actually clicked publish on anything. So really, there should be no changes to the Agility CMS content. So if there was new code that would have picked up or whatever, although When I publish code to the main branch, it will automatically do that. Your 1, 2, 3. Tony, I'm not sure what you mean by your 1, 2, 3. So here we go. So yeah, you can see there's some Agility CMS stuff in here, pulling content changes. So no content changes, no page changes, because I didn't change anything. So we have, the build is updated. It's cool. And it'll take a few seconds to finish off. Okay. Oh, you added 1, 2, 3 to the Jumbotron. Yes, but I don't think I published it. Okay, so now we have a webhook set up so that anytime I publish content in Agility, it will actually trigger a build in Vercel. Okay, so we have, like, I can't tell you how crazy this is to have these DevOps done for us like this. It's so simple. Literally just copy and paste a few values around and we're good. We have set up something where I can check code in, and as I check code in and change it, and we'll see that, it'll automatically trigger a build in Vercel. If we have content that I want to preview that I haven't published yet, I can preview that. And as soon as I publish content, it's going to trigger a build for me. So I have like the best of all of these worlds set up, and we're good. So this is like, you've just done what used to take me as a web developer a long, long time to set up in, like, what is it? We're about an hour in. We didn't even need the full 2 hours to get to that point. So if you're with me, I'm really impressed, really, really impressed. Okay. Tony, you're with me. All right. All right. This is good. Thank you for the feedback. I can't tell you how much that means to me to get some feedback, to say, like, you're with me, you're liking it, because this is something I'm super passionate about. Let's go and dig into some of the code inside this project to see what's working. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit here. All right. Whew. So I can delete this output folder, by the way. We don't need this. This is, and that one, by the way, there's a git ignore on that, so we don't accidentally check in the build of the site. Okay, cool. So let's open up pages. This is where most of the magic is going to happen. And you could, and in a normal Next.js project, you would have multiple sort of things in here with some kind of slug or something like that in there. Agility is special because it allows me to define all of my pages. And a lot of Next.js projects, you'll open them up and they'll have a page defined like at multiple levels, a bunch of pages defined in there because their CMS doesn't allow them to define pages. And then they'll have one to be like /post/ something for like post ID or some kind of slug at the end of that. For Agility, I just have one component that does my entire site. It doesn't have to do the entire site. If you want to hard code some pages in there, you could do that. But in this case, I've got all the sites coming through this slug. So you can see this special URL here. That basically says this ... slug. It says, take every single URL that comes into this path and put it in here and put it in the slug variable and send it into me, okay? And then I have this API folder, which I'm not going to look at yet, but these are basically serverless functions. Anything in the API folder is going to execute as a serverless function, as a Lambda function. Cool. All right. So taking you through here, there's actually not a lot going on in this component except this. There's this, okay, we called it Agility page. It has a render, and we're gonna do some stuff to handle preview. Don't worry about that right now. And I have some stuff to handle preview errors, mostly because I was having trouble getting preview going, so I put in a bunch of error happening stuff. But like 90% of everything that happens here comes through this. I have a layout component to do all of my layout for me. And I just pass all the props through, okay? So the actual component is really not doing a whole lot. And then we have these special functions that are Next.js things, okay? There's two of them. One called getStaticProps, and one called getStaticPaths. If you are used to Next.js from like older iterations, there's, I think, getServerProps or server-side properties or something like that. So you can actually run Next.js in server mode as opposed to in static mode. And I think we've kind of moved through into static mode is the way to go, mostly because it's just so easy to get going on it. And it's so scalable and secure and, you know, yada, yada, yada. So getStaticProps gets called for every path that we tell Next.js that we have by the getStaticPaths function. So we have a hook in here basically saying, hey, if in getStaticPaths, call getAgilityPaths. And now this fallback property here is the one that I need to do some more reading on, because this is right now, the caveat is in preview mode, the way I have this right now, I can only preview pages that have been published once. So I have to do a little bit more reading on that, and I will follow up in next level stuff to get this one right. But as it is right now, the way this is set up, this fallback equals false means that if I don't output a page from get static paths, it will throw me a 404, which I want. So that's good. But there's lots of different ways to handle that, by the way. So I'm not a Next.js expert, but this basically returns a list of the available paths that are available. And get static props, basically this says get agility page props for that context. And the context has a slug, it has whether I'm in preview mode, and it has a few other things that I need to be able to render that. And let's take a little bit of a look into where that gets sort of done. There's a folder here called agility. And there's a bunch of stuff here that we've sort of set up to make things easier for you. And you can see this is where the agility.sync is. So that file is literally just doing the run sync and clear sync. Very, very simple. But we have this agility.node thing. So this is where most of the work happens. And we included this in the project as opposed to abstracting it away in an NPM project, because I know that people might want to change how this works. And especially because Next.js 9.4 is so new, and there are going to be new things in 9.5 and whatever that I don't know what's going to happen. So I want people to be able to jump into here and tweak and change and fix the way this is working so that it works for them. Okay, because there's really not a lot of code in here. There's a bunch of stuff to say, hey, am I in preview mode? I have this is development mode if my node env equals development. So if we're running in a local development environment, I want to know that. Okay, we console log some stuff out. So this is the get agility page props. Okay. So that comes through, and what it does is it figures out all the agility data that I'm going to need for that page, and then just sends it into the props, okay? I'm not going to go through too much how that works, but it's super simple. Then we have get agility paths, does the same thing, okay? And if I'm not in development mode, this actually runs a sync right then. So this gets called by Vercel, okay? When you deploy on Vercel, it's going to call get agility paths, and so it'll do a sync right there to get all your production content and update it as a delta. Okay, so it's not an incremental build just yet. I know that incremental build is a thing for Next that I would love to see, but it is really, really fast. So it works great. That's all we have to look at for there. Okay, but how the heck does agility actually work? Let's take a look at the building blocks of an agility site. Let's go back to the agility for 1 second here, because we know, okay, we have these pages things, right? But what's a page made of? A page is made of a template, okay? And this one's called one column template. And it's also made of modules, okay? And we, as developers, we get to define what's in those. We get to define what the data structures will look like of those page templates and module definitions when we get them. So let's jump into the settings section for a second. If you're used to agility, you'll know this, but it's always a good reminder to sort of think about how it works, okay? So we have one template in this project called one column template. And very rarely do you see more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 in a project. In a really complex one, people will have 20, and I say that's too many. You should have 1 or 2 or 3 max, okay, for some different layouts. All it does is like it has a name and it has a defined zone where I can say, allow the editor to put content here. So this one's called main content zone, okay, and it has a reference name. Right, so what that's going to translate to in my code is I'm going to need to have a component in React to render that thing, and we've put them under the page templates folder. So I can see I have one column template, so I just took the spaces out of the name, and look how simple it is. I have a div, and I'm outputting a content zone module in there that has the name that matches the module zone or the content zone that I defined over here. Okay, that's it. So the file name plus the content zones are in here. So if I had, if I had multiple, say I had like, I don't know, 3, I'm just gonna make some stuff up here. Say I had 2 content zones, right? Maybe I had like a 2 column thing, or like a main and then like a right column for like a sidebar or something. Right? Could be like that, right? It doesn't have to have class names. And actually it could just be like this if you wanted to. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as it's a valid React component, it's fine, okay? And this one is just like this. So there you go, all right? Super straightforward. That's all it's doing. And honestly, we set those up once, and usually hardly ever touch them again. Modules are much more interesting, okay? So think of those as the components, like your React components that you work with that have content that can be plugged into them, okay? The simplest one is that Jumbotron component that we already looked at, okay? That one has like a title and a subtitle. And it has, so this is name is Jumbotron. And we have some fields that also have names on them. Let's look at where that is. So under modules folder, we have here's, oh look, jumbotron.js. That was easy, okay? And oh my goodness, those class names are long. So when you're working with Tailwind's UI, there's lots of class names, but once you learn how those work, it's actually really, really cool to work with. But you can see, I've got this, basically a function, I'm using a function. I like function components, but it doesn't really matter. It brings in props, okay? Props has all the fields that I'm working with and my title and my subtitle. So it was pretty easy to go and grab the content for those, right? And you can see I've got some content in here that's hard-coded. So is there any other metadata in props too? Yes, there is. And I can show you how that gets passed in. It's a great question. So in our, in Agility here, I believe, I can't remember what actually happens. In the get agility props, this is why I left this wide open, because I figured people might want to do some stuff. There's a page object. There's a page in sitemap object. It basically is the sitemap node of that page. And there's potentially a dynamic page item. And we'll get to that. So all of those get passed into each of the content zones so that I can use them. So if we look at a couple of these other ones here, I have my item and I have my dynamic page item. Okay. So each post gets an item that you can use, as well as the dynamic page item in this case. So yeah, there's a few different things. What I always do is when I'm working with something the first time, console.log props, and I just see what's in there. Or if you're debugging, you can debug it, that sort of thing, to see what's there. Cool. So Jumbotron, let's back to Jumbotron for a second. So we have this kind of like description thing, and we have these two links. Hey, you know what? Let's do some coding. Let's reserve field names. Okay, dotted too. Yeah, totally. And if you want to change how things work, that's cool too. Let's add a couple things in here. So let's add a description field. Description, and let's make it a long text field. Doesn't really matter. It's not required. I don't care. Okay. Click save and new. Are you with me here? I'm going real fast. Save and new, and I'm going to do like link 1. And I'm going to make it an actual link field. So our URL field. That's cool. Let's do that. Save and new. Let's make another one called link 2. You can see how quickly you can put together complex things, right? If you know what you're doing in Agility, you can actually put together a really complex data model really fast. Okay. Save and close that. Right? Yeah, it has this publish mode thing that it farts on me. Don't worry about that. Okay, so I just added 3 fields to my Jumbotron. Now I have to go and actually put that content on my Jumbotron. So let's go to the home page. Right, so now I have more than 2 fields. I have all these other fields. Okay, my description is, I really like Jamstack or Jamstack. You get it. You? Okay, whatever. And then link 1, let's do some links here. That's fun. Okay, so I think we should link to vercel.com. And don't worry about the new window stuff. Let's link to Tailwinds, because that's fun. Tailwind UI. Inspiring. There we go. All right. Save it. Cool. Now what do we got to do? Every time we change content, we got to update that content. So I'm just going to do, I just hit my up arrow, by the way, to run the last command. This is why I have these open in 2 windows here, 2 terminal windows. You can also run it in like Windows Terminal or the term app in whatever terminal you're using. Okay, you can see I pulled in my content changes, so that's cool. And now I forgot what my fields are named. That's okay, because I'm going to use the old console.log. And if you're a person that debugs using console.log, that's okay. Jumbo props. Cool. Now when I run this, I think I have a local URL here somewhere. Not there? Not there? Okay, well, it's localhost 3000. Oh, and not running. Hang on. npm run dev. Here we go. Make sure you're in an npm run dev. Okay. And then I'm going to bring open my developer tools as well at the same time as I run this. I now know why my computer is running so slowly. It is running a time machine. I'm going to make that stop. Okay. Wow, backed up 100 of 400 gigabytes. For some reason, it decided to do a new time machine restore for me, or a time machine backup right now. That's awesome. Okay, here's a jumbo, boom. So we have our new thing. So we have, here's the fields. And you see, we have our fields thing and the content ID of that module. We also have a page property that's of this thing too, okay? So it actually passes me the page. And then I have other properties of this module. Okay, so let's expand the fields and I see I have my description field. Okay, so let's go through there and just do fields.description, boom. And then jump back. So link is actually a more complex object. So it's link1.text is in here. So props.link1.text. And then I think it's, so if I can remember my React stuff, props.link1.href. And then props.link1.target. Now I should be probably smarter if it's target equals new to do like the no refer thing and all that sort of stuff, no opener. I don't remember what the thing is for that, so. Link1, wait, what? Props.link1 fields dot. Props.oh fields. Being a developer means not caring about errors too much. Don't let your heart rate race if you get an error or problem. It's okay, happens all the time. Happens to all of us. Oh my goodness, I got this, I got that. Oops, I got one more link to do. And I am super, oh, I think this is a different class though, hang on. Link to, and this guy's gonna be that. Nice. Wow, this is working. And I think it should work there. Yeah, it's all good. Nice. Okay, we're all good. So we got, oh wait, this image. I don't want to have these guys looking at me every time I use this module. Let's go back one more time. I know that I forgot about this. Let's go back real quick. Module definitions, Jumbotron, form builder. I'm gonna do something fun. You can do whatever you want here, but I'm gonna do like main, I'm gonna do a tab. So you can put tabs in these things, it's kind of fun. So I'm gonna main tab there. I'm gonna do like an image tab. Image, I'm gonna call it just image, that's fine. And then I'm gonna call this BG image. Okay. And I'll probably forget what that name is, and then you know what happens after that. Okay, so I have an image, and let's just make it, it needs to be a pretty big image. So let's make sure that the width is larger than like, what, 500? Let's go with that. Okay, and it can be JPEG, GIF, PNG, or SVG, whatever. Okay, cool. So there's a bunch of different field types. By the way, there are far too many field types. And literally, I'm pretty sure as we're talking, the product team is actually rolling out a new version of our content modeling section that will be slowly released over time. So that you didn't hear that from me because, you know, obviously we have a marketing team and other people on other real channels of talking about things, but I like to sometimes, you know, just give out little hints. Anyway, so the new content modeling section is going to be amazing. I'm really, really excited to see folks have a look at that. Okay. Jumbotron, we added the image. All right, back to pages. Can't wait to have that icon changed. Here we go, Jumbotron. Okay, let's go and pop an image. Oh wait, we have tabs now. Check that out. If you have a lot of fields on your form, I recommend using tabs or not if you like to scroll, but sometimes it's easy, nice to have tabs. Okay, cool. What I did is actually went and actually put in a few, I just downloaded some stuff. So here, let's just go to like, I don't know, I like Pexels. If you don't know where to find good stock photos, Pexels is fun. Let's do like, I don't know, city. Pick one. Hey, look, there's Toronto. Pick anything, click on it. You can do like different sizes. Download it. Doesn't take very long. Check this out. So I drag this from here, upload it to Agility. Pretty cool. And then that's there. It'll give you a warning about it being over 300K. Don't worry. So just save that. Pop it in there, give it an alt text for accessibility. You can actually make the alt text required too. I didn't, but don't worry about it. So now we're on there, we have our image on there, that's cool. And now we're gonna do our rusty trusty CMS pull to get the updated stuff, wicked. And do our rusty trusty, do I still have my thing, my console? I do. All right, so I could just jump, I've got too many tabs. You can see how very quickly you have too many tabs. All right, my new jumbo object with my fields. It's not there yet. Hang on, maybe I got to refresh, sorry. There's probably a way I could make it auto refresh on content. I just haven't done that yet. I haven't figured that one out yet. Okay, here we go. Fields, BG image. Oh, wow. The casing is totally horrific. Like it burns my eyes to look at that. Anyway, so you can see we get a bunch of variables or properties on our attachment. We can see like pixel height and pixel width, get the label, the alt text come through as label, and we get the URL and a few other things. And I don't know why we get target on there, but I think that we use that when if it's a file attachment or something like that. Okay, so I have to now find out where is my background image. Here we go. Right now it's pulling the source from Unsplash. So let's do this. Let's be smart. Props. So if props.fields.bg image, if I have a BG image, this is how you do ifs in React, in case you didn't know. And this is one if I don't have one. For those of you who are new to React, I know this like breaks your brain to say, I have JavaScript inside my thing, and you just get used to it. This is what kept me away from React initially, and now I just find it just comes naturally. So if you find yourself saying, oh, this is awful, I would rather use something like Vue, go ahead. I love Vue too, it's awesome. But it doesn't have Next. It has Nuxt, which is very similar, but not the same. Okay. I think .url is what we use here. I forget. Target, no. Label. Okay. Okay, props.fields.bgimage.label. So if I have a BG image, use this one. If I don't, use the stock photo from Unsplash. Brilliant. Oh my gosh, I didn't even have to update it. Hot preload finally worked. There you go. Nice. Look at that. Wait, there's more. This is a thing that I always forget. But if you look at this image in a new tab, it's like really big, okay? I don't need it that big. In fact, I probably want it much, much smaller, especially if, so there you could, one of the things I often do is build what's called a responsive image component. I don't have it here right now, but at the very least, I can make this a little bit smaller. So let's just do this. There's some, Agility has some secret, not that secret. Basically it's got an API for saying how wide I want my images. So let's just go, this is maybe pixelated a little bit. Let's go 500 pixels wide for this, okay? W equals 500. And it will resize, not this image. It basically is gonna do this. This here, I'll show you. W equals 500. And that will resize it small for me. So, and it's nice because it's all coming through the CDN that way. So I do this, and there it is. So now I have much smaller image coming through, and I think the other one was like 2 megabytes. This makes it small. DOS proof, yes. So basically it just rebuilds it once and actually stores that copy of that thumbnail in the online storage as well, and it uses that in the origin. So yeah, that's basically going through the Agility image server, which has been in use for quite some time. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And all those files are served through a CDN. So yeah, it's pretty nice that you have a CDN on top of that. And it's like, it's a great question because I know on like WordPress sites, you can do the same kind of thing. And that is literally how you take down a WordPress site, because you just put in, you know, W equals, and then a million different combinations, and then it dies. And then, oops, sorry about your website. It doesn't happen here. Cool. So now we have that. We updated some content, and we do learn the hard way, Tony. Man, oh man, do we learn the hard way. Let's jump through a couple other things. This also has a listings component, okay? So you can see these are a list of, and you probably only have 2 of them, and only one of them I think has an image, but that's the post listing. So let's just take a quick look at the post page and the post listing and how that's working, okay? So we have this page called posts, and it has a module on it called posts listing. And that has on it basically a link to, or a linked content field to the list of posts and the title of posts. Let's go take a look at that module definition for a sec. So we have post listing module. And I think if I just check my output again, where is it? So I have like this subtitle thing, and I have this other title. So let's add 2 more fields. Let's add a subtitle and a description, just to fill this out real quick. And you'll see that as you get used to it, you get really good at doing this. Subtitle. And it becomes really quick to be able to do what used to be maybe complex things. They're not that hard if you have, and this is actually kind of backwards, because this is taking, hey, what's in my design? Better add some content to it. Normally I don't say I would say that's not the right way to go. Typically I would say, what's your content? Okay, now let's find a design to fit all that content. It just happens to be that I have no idea what the content is because this is the sample site. So here, let's find a design that has some stuff in it and reverse engineer it. We shouldn't be reverse engineers. We should be actual engineers. So normally, what is the content that's important to your client, your customer, or your organization, or whatever this site is for? Go with that content first. Figure out all the important content. Build the architecture of that content and the types and the fields and whatever, and then build your design after that. And then sometimes you say, well, the design has this, but we don't have content for that. So maybe that design doesn't work for us. There's trade-off happens there. Regardless, I think I need a field called description. Okay. Joel tends to rant about content first. I could make this an HTML field, by the way. I really, really don't like HTML fields because that gives my editor a lot of power, and with great power comes great responsibility, Peter Parker. So don't do that if you don't need to, okay? There is a rich text module that they can use if they want to have lots of responsibility. But just be very careful of that, because you can't stop them from putting in things like tables. Well, you could, but it's then the validation becomes very difficult. Okay, so we've got a few extra fields on there. Let's go pop some content in there, and we're just doing the same thing we did before. And I'm going to show you how. Oh, by the way, hang on. I went right over it. We have this thing called a link content field. Let's actually move it down here. Okay, these fields are super crazy. So our field type is link content. We now decide, okay, well, what kind of content do you want to link it over to? I want to link it to the post content, but which post content list do you want to do it? Well, I want to do it to one of the shared content lists called posts. Oh, okay, how do you want to show it? I want to show it as a grid. Okay, well, what columns do you want to show? Well, I'd like to show the title column. And how about, let's also show the status column, and then the modified by, and the modified date. Cool, all right, awesome. And then I could filter them, I could sort it, I could do all kinds of stuff. So pretty neat. Wicked cool. All right, so you can do a lot of stuff with those fields, and I think that UI I just went through is a little overly complicated, which is why we're building the new content modeling section that's being rolled out right now. If by the way, if it just magically shows up for me, then you know that I got to be part of the internal private beta. That would be awesome. Okay, back over to the post listing. Let's go and throw some content in there so we can see if it works. These are my posts. I don't know what to write. Okay, save and close. Back here. CMS pull. Take this out of here. Let's go to our post listing. All right. Here. Go to our posts page. By the way, the post listing is also on the home page. And okay, so we have post listing here. And I added new fields for subtitle and description. And these are going to be really, really easy to drop in. Unless okay, so I have my title that's there. Let's put the subtitle below that. Makes sense. Oh, wrong brackets. Subtitle, cool. Props. Stop looking at me. I can't type when people are looking at me. Okay. Description, awesome. What? It worked. Sounds like the link content feature hurts your servers, but as users on the other side of the CDN, we don't have to worry about that impact. That's right. Link content, actually link content doesn't, it's all about the love. It's so great. And we want people to use it more. It's probably one of the biggest differentiators for Agility in terms of the ability to create really complex content models. So it's awesome. Okay, cool. We did that. But here's an interesting thing. On my homepage, I also have this post listing module that's used on here. So now, like, that's kind of the powered modules. They're reusable, right? They could be, people could put them anywhere. So it's on here, but also my code degraded fairly nicely because I just don't have those fields, so they didn't show up. If I was going to run into something where I would get like a null ref exception, like for here, then you do have to have some kind of if to say, hey, if this field doesn't exist, don't output the tag. So you should sort of test that with your code to say, well, the content could be different. It could be that someone doesn't type in, if it's not a required field, then they won't type it in. Or if I just added a brand new field to my content definition or module definition, it won't be there yet, right? So you got to be handling that gracefully, okay? So this post listing also does something really interesting. Let's just look at how this is built. Because the previous module was super simple. This one's a little more complex because it's got a list of posts, okay? So where is it here? Oh, that's Jumbotron. Sorry, wrong module. Okay. So you see we've got, yeah, we updated our title, our subtitle, our description. We've got this thing inside an unordered list tag, which is like decided by, you know, the way that this thing that I stole from or borrowed from Tailwind's UI. It just had this, but I'm calling my render post function. So let's find that function. Okay. So this render posts here, this thing has a props called custom data. Well, where did that come from? Let's just backtrack for a second. I'm just going to collapse some stuff in here. Down below, this thing has a special method that we call a get custom initial props. So if you have a component that needs to do its own lookups, okay, and the list of posts, I may have 25,000 posts in my list, right? Because this is my blog post, this is about my blog, and I blog every day, right? I may have a lot of them. So those don't get delivered with the page object. The page object gives me my page and all my modules, but it doesn't give me any linked content to shared content because those lists could be big. So I need to do my own lookup. And that's probably going to be an asynchronous lookup. So this is a special way to basically do async functions to do whatever I need. And it just happens to be that it gives me a handle to the Agility API. So this is a secret. And this all happened, by the way, in agility.node. So if you want to change how this works, this is just how actually James Vidler came up with this. It was a really brilliant invention. He figured out how to get this working. But if you want to adjust it and pass more APIs around or something, you could do that too and just hook into how we're doing this. So basically, if this function is available on the modules component, it calls it, passes it any props that it has, and I get to use those. So now I just call get sitemap. So that'll tell me if I'm linking to a post, I can then go find it, what its URL is. And then I call get content list, pass it the reference name of posts. It passed me the language code in my property because Agility handles multiple languages. And now I just call this thing that resolves the post URLs, all good. Oh, this to-do says reduce this to only include fields in the direct output. That's probably true. Who cares? Let someone else make it efficient. Okay, and then we're going to return this. So what this method does is it basically builds more of our data model that we're going to need to render the actual component. Okay, so this gets called when the build process runs, basically. Okay, and then that gets passed through into the props for this component in the custom data property. So now we just loop through them. So I'm going to map these into a list of basically linked list items. Okay, I have my key that is the content ID of the post with the content ID of the module to be a unique key. And then I just output some stuff. Now here is some magic. Check that out. So this is a link tag that is going to say, hey, just check out this slug. And it's a slug at the same level that I'm at now as and we have a list of dynamic URLs in this thing. So I'm going to output this as like only my dynamic URL that I need, basically. So what this does is it actually makes this a special link, and it surrounds an anchor tag. The anchor tag doesn't have anything on it, but it has to be there to make it valid HTML for how this gets built. And then the rest of it's in there, okay? So anytime you're in a Next.js site, check out for, I've been blogging for 68 years. Not quite. I'm only 62 years old. I'm just kidding. 61. So this link tag, we have an href that basically points to a slug and an as property, okay? So what that means is those links are going to be treated as single page application links. And we'll go back out there and see how that works. But now I'm basically taking the props of my post, which have fields on it. So this post is the item here. Output my image if I have an image. Output, if I don't have an image, then it outputs like this stupid SVG that was just there, whatever. I don't even know what this looks like. Tailwinds likes to have inline SVGs. It's interesting. It's cool. And then I put my title, and then it actually builds this excerpt. So I take the details because there's no excerpt field on this, although I could have one. That would be the next thing I would probably do if I was updating this. But this is like, hey, get me to figure out my post excerpt. So let's find out what that does. It's going to actually uses the truncate HTML package and takes out the tags and makes it only 160 characters. That's pretty awesome. So what does this look like again? Oh, really? So it takes what was in remember I said don't use HTML fields? Well, in the post actually does use an HTML field. Let's see what it looks like actually. So there's one of these guys, how this site works. So it's got this in here. So if I had HTML, if I had like bolded this or whatever, now it's got HTML in there. That's actually going to get ripped out when I run here. It'll take that HTML out for me. So it's pretty nice. Happy to yeah, totally. I have written my own truncating and parsing stuff, and that's one of the beauties about npm.js is that like so many of these problems have been solved by other people who actually spent like a lot of time figuring this stuff out, and it's like I'll share it with the world. So first of all, I really appreciate those, and I really appreciate the fact that Agility is sharing code like this with the world too and helping it share. So if you guys have other pieces of like things that you think might be really useful, npm packages or whatever, or open source projects, feel free to shoot those into the comments or hit me up on Twitter after this. Send me ones that you think are interesting because I'm always on the lookout for cool stuff. Okay, so we've got the little images, and you can see these are tiny little thumbnails of those images. So remember how I added the W property before to the images? In this case, I added a W and an H, and that cropped it down to 50 by 50. So I've got a teeny tiny little image on there. But if I click on it, it's actually a big image as it comes out. And on that one, this is now the post details module. But let's go back to this for a second because wait, it didn't refresh my whole page over here. If I just look at my network tab, let's see what happens in the network over here. Let's clear this out. Okay. If I click, let's go back. All right. So I open this post. Right? It didn't reload the whole page. I didn't see another actual document get loaded. It just did some JSON stuff. So that's how Next.js, it basically rehydrates your app as a React application. So The downside is it serves you a bunch of JavaScript that you might not need, but it does work without JavaScript pretty much because it's still, everything's like real links, right? But what it does is it make it really, really fast to navigate through this thing if I'm just a regular user, okay? So I would say the trade-off, it makes sense. And the next team is the Vercel team, and the next open source team is doing a lot of work on making that JavaScript even faster and more lightweight. So that's pretty awesome. Love that. Cool. So now let's take a look at one last thing and how the details template or the details works, okay? So, because this is where we get into what's called that dynamic page object. This is a special Agility thing that Agility does. So most, like when we get a CMS has a blog out there, most times you'll get the post listing, and that's pretty much all you'll get from a blog. It's like, hey, do your blog with my new headless CMS, and all it really gives you is a list of posts, but forgets about all the other things that you might need in your blog, like pages and all the other pieces of content. So that's why with this starter, even though it's pretty bare bones, it does give you a lot of like the around the edges kind of things that helps, okay? So we have that posts list that we showed here, but let's look at this page here. It's a special page, and it's called a dynamic page in Agility. And what it does is it's a page that's just a placeholder for a list of items, okay? So what this is gonna do, this is like the post-dynamic, that slug is gonna get replaced by whatever I set up as my thing. So I can say this page is built from the posts list. So when I created this page, let's just show what it looked like. Normal page looks, you just pick your template and you give it like a title and menu text and the URL, the slug. But on a dynamic page, I actually have to go pick a template and then a pages list, okay? So in Agility, I actually get to say how that will be built. If I look under the SEO tab, we get a page path formula. So I can use fields on my post to build the URL that gets that is going to be routed by, my Next.js site. And normally what we'll do is we'll have like a slug field or a URL field. In this case, we're being super lazy and we're just taking the title field. The downside of this is if I change the title, I just change the URL, which isn't so great. So that's why having a URL field. But I could add like literally, I could add the content ID field, whatever I wanted to do, I could do in here. Basically, any field I want. You can do portions of a date field, whatever. It's all good. Okay, cool. And then we have this post details module. And look, it's a really complicated one. It has no fields at all. All it is, it's just basically a placeholder for a component. Let's look at that component. Say I change the slug, can I add a filter that sets up a redirect to save me from my dummy move? Yes. Or you can actually create your own actual redirect, like in the URL redirection section in Agility, if you just change one. But if you change the slug, like the formula completely, and you're like, hey, I have all these URLs, I want to change it to this other URL, you can totally do that. I don't have that in this project, but there's certainly, that's one of the next things I'll be doing is adding support for Vercel redirections. So yeah, definitely one of those things. It's come up a lot too. Okay, where was I? Post details, check this out. Okay, so this is the case where, remember I said, hey, you can just get like the main props, which is basically the module's item, but then you can also get this this dynamic page item as well. Actually, there is no item, it's page. Is the other thing that I get, and you can have fields. So if the module had fields, it would get populated into the fields property. This is the actual static page property. It's just the placeholder, but then there's this dynamic page item. So that on this represents the post that I was rendering, okay? So if we look at our URL here on this guy, I've got /posts. So that references that page here, this /post page. And then you can see here, I've got my title, which is like, it takes the title, spaces get replaced with dashes and is all lowercase. So what happens is this gets rendered out and we call the right component for this, okay? And that, again, that was all being done in this little thing right here, this little guy right there, when we call it get agility static, or get static page props. Okay, so we have this dynamic page item. So now it's just a matter of taking this post and remembering what fields we have in the post. So here's my title, and oh wait, don't have an excerpt because I didn't bother doing that, or a subtitle. And then we have an image, and then we have this dangerously set in HTML thing. And then we actually have a special render HTML function. One of the things that Agility does, and when it generates like links inside and stuff, it'll have links will have like a // in some cases, which is actually an old throwback to .NET. So I just run all my HTML through this function, which I actually gave in the utils function. And all that does, if I just check it, it just goes through and replaces like bad links with good links. But if you had to actually run a cleaner on your HTML, which I really recommend you do actually, what this should be doing, and what I normally do is as I build up a project, is like especially if I'm inheriting old HTML code that's in there, I'll run a cleaner on it. And sometimes I'll just take out the HTML completely or only allow certain tags to be in there. You can run a regex on there. I didn't ship it in here, but running this on HTML fields is really smart. Don't forget to do that. Cool. Yeah, take out your blink tags or the marquee tags, all that sort of stuff. Script tags, maybe you don't want script tags in there. Whatever. A lot of stuff ends up getting put in HTML fields because people will go to like some external system, copy their embed code, and then drop it into your HTML, which if it works, that's awesome. But like our websites are really complex, right? And maybe that content wasn't meant for a website. Maybe it was meant for my mobile app. So it's like, well, you know, maybe your thing worked on my full website, but it doesn't work on my mobile app that's on here that really doesn't work with HTML. So you want to be able to clean that out. And if I run a cleaner on it here, when the user previews, I could actually show something to say, hey, I removed this, I removed that, or did something else. So there's a bunch of things you can do as a developer to make the CMS editing experience better for your clients or for the people that are working with your content, or for yourself if it's for your own blog, because it just like makes your life easier. So that's how we do dynamic pages. And you could use this for like a lot of, you have like a team page or something like that that was in your website. You know, you have a team members list and it works from there. So there's a lot of different strategies for working with that. I think the only component I missed that was a big one is the main header component. And I want to show that for a sec. So also I have a layout component as well. Let's show that first. So we had, remember the slug? So this is the main slug for the entire website. So the main page component, but we're using the layout component as the main sort of wrapper for everything, okay? So there's a router hook in here to say, hey, if the router isn't loading yet, whatever. And there's some fallback stuff. I haven't dug much into the fallback stuff. I don't think this actually works right now. And also so this is where we basically figure out which page template to load. So we have props.page template name. So we literally just do a require on that. And now I have my page template component, right? Next gives us a head component. So I don't have to go and get like React helmet or anything. It just works for me. And I can just put whatever metadata for SEO that I want in here, okay? Now, what I would normally do is if I have in my props for here, if one of those props included a dynamic page, I would pull out anything from that dynamic page. Like if it was a post, I would say, hey, if the type of this page is post, I would go grab its image and make that as the open graph image and output that in here, okay? I did that, I showed in that example. If you check my blog, I can't remember where I put it on, whether it's DevTO or whatever, but it basically does SEO stuff for a Gatsby site. It's almost exactly the same for a Next.js site here. So it's like if I have a dynamic page item, I can actually access that here because I think it would end up coming through dynamic page item, I think it's called. And again, I would use console.log because I forget all the time. So in that case, I would say, hey, if dynamic page item and dynamic page item, I think it's .properties .definition equals, I think it's going to be post. And I could, you know, obviously I probably pull this off into like a util function that did this, but let's just go with let open graph image equals null. And then I would set the OG image from there, you know, whatever it is, the dot image. So like dynamic page item dot fields dot image dot blah, 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 you know, whatever's, okay, so let's just do it. I don't know, let's go like 900, 800, whatever. Okay, I would do something like that. So now if I have an open graph image, add that right into here. Oh, not like that though, right? So if OG image, and then I do, and of course I cannot remember this, but you know, it's going to be like, or it's meta. I don't even remember. It's some kind of open graph tag. I think it's like OG colon image. I don't remember. Content equals. I know I'll get the syntax wrong, but you're going to get the idea here. OG image there, something like that. And then I could, and remember we actually have the height as well, height and width of that image. So I could set the OG image height on there as well if I wanted to. Okay, this will probably break everything, but that's fine. Maybe it won't. Oh my gosh, it didn't break it. So if I check this now, and I'll get to your question in a second, Tony, I did see that come in. So if I check this here, did I do it right? I might've done it wrong. Dynamic page item, oh, it's actually null on there. I did something wrong. Okay, you can see how. You can see the bind I'm in. I make these mistakes all the time. There's probably an easier way to see all these values, but dynamic page item dot properties dot definition name. So dynamic page item, the properties definition name equals post. Boom, cool. If so, then use fields dot image dot URL. I think I got that right. So in that case, grab the open graph image. I could also grab other things to do if I had like a different description. I wanted to get the meta description from like a truncated version of the body, whatever. And I could have different ones of those for if I've based on whatever dynamic page I was loading. This is gold because what this does is it sets it up for things that sharing, for sharing on things like Facebook, and I can set the Twitter sharing stuff on here as well. Your marketing team will love you if you get this right. And I don't think I did yet, but I think you get the idea. Oh, meta name equals, I probably did it wrong. Tony, what did you say? So you want to standardize your header content model or else this component will get pretty gross, right? Yes, totally. Can we dispatch to headers by content type if we have to? Yes. You can do whatever you want. Like literally, we just give you the data and you just do whatever you want. So yeah, it probably makes sense to say, if you're going to have a dynamic page item, you better make sure it has like these fields in it so that we can always use those fields if they're there for the SEO content. Yes. So when you're building your content architecture, you probably want to keep that in mind. But if you're basically building a site and you forgot to do that, you can do this kind of stuff and it'll be okay. All right. Back to the header. Okay. So remember we output this Agility page template thing. So that's all good. Oh, this is stuff I forgot to delete last night because it got late. But we also have this preview bar component. Remember that only showed up when we went into preview mode. So I'll let you check that out, but I'm not going to get too deep into that. We're running low on time, but let's just check out global header for a sec. So global header is in the components folder. And it is one of the ones, if I just go here, it also has a get custom initial props, okay? Because global header is not on any page. It's just, I want to show this header everywhere, right? So we call this function, and then I want to go get the global header, and I just need the one item from it because it's a single item. So I get that first item from it. So now I have my content item, and I need the sitemap because I want to show what pages are on the sitemap at the top, right? So when I build all those, and if it's /home, I do /. I don't really actually love that. So it could be basically the first, on any Agility site, the first page in the sitemap, like here, it's called home here. It's the home page. It doesn't have to be called home though. So this doesn't have to be like that. Anyway, whatever. We just take the top level sitemap nodes and we push them out. This could have more logic in it to say if it's not, because on these pages I can actually say include in menu and sitemap. This isn't looking for that just yet. So this is not a totally feature complete site yet. Anyway, we get the code that we need, or the content that we need, I should say. So we have our global header content item, which I'll show you. And then we have our sitemap pages. So here we are. So let's go back. So those are going to get passed into props. So I get my global header props, which we're going to use, and which has a content item and a sitemap object. Okay. So the first thing I do, let's collapse this method for a second. So this is where we actually return our stuff. So I've got a logo here. So this is like another one of those fun link objects where the href is just slash. Okay, so this is my logo. So I'm actually using this is the Agility logo. So you can replace it with your own. I even put your own logo here. Okay, and then for this guy, this button, I've got this, so I click on here to like expand and collapse the mobile menu. So this only shows, and I don't know if you know much about Tailwinds. So this is like in medium size, hide it. Otherwise it has these other properties. So that's pretty cool. And then I call render links for the desktop. And we've got these hard-coded sign-in links. And then we've got this transition component. And actually this is done with the documentation of Tailwinds. Tailwinds UI has some stuff that's like, hey, if you're gonna use Tailwinds UI and you're on React, this is how you do it. And they gave us this transition component that I just dropped in. And it gives me these properties, like it gives you the CSS properties that you need to do like the transition in and out for mobile. Okay, and then I've got, again, this is hiding the mobile menu, and then we render our links for mobile. So let's look at the render links method. By the way, to jump to different things, I don't know if you show that, I just hit F12 and it just jumped to the definition of that. One of those things for navigating around your code that you might not know. So if your code is good and you're using something like VS Code, you can navigate around it really easily. Okay. So we have this global header props.sitemap, and we're going to map all the nodes to this list of links, React components or React objects we're going to output. So if my kind equals mobile, because I just pass either the word mobile or desktop into this, output the mobile items. Super simple. And each one of those is a node that has a menu text, and it's got a page ID for my key, and it's got an href that I build and a path. My href is literally /slug, unless it's slash, in which case it's just slash. For the homepage, the homepage does not have a slug, it's just slash. So that case, I don't need to pass the rest of this slug thing. I have to say, I'm not exactly sure what's going on in the background of Next.js on this, but if you want to render, if you want your site to work as an SPA with these links, you need to use these link things. Magic slugs, yes, Tony, thank you. They are magic. When you get them wrong, it's annoying, but when you get them right, it's magic. This one here, I actually abstracted it the class name, but this is my desktop links. And if you're good with Tailwinds, you can go through all these different things, but it's like focus and hover and all this different stuff. So Tailwinds is awesome. And I just return these links and they output like so. And then in the mobile version, you can see this is that transition we talked about. Ooh, oh, I got a bug there. We've got some Z-index problems going on. Let's go to another page where I don't have that problem. Okay, here we go. Nothing's ever perfect. You can see I've got the different links here. And then what I did is actually on the click of the A tag, I hide the mobile menu as it navigates to the other spot. So that's pretty cool because it doesn't reload everything. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So there's a lot of stuff I went through there. I hope you were able to follow along with me. And I hope it starts to make sense how you can use page templates to build components, module to build components for you to wrap your whole page in, and you build module components to do the individual reusable chunks of your site. And then, as a user, I didn't actually show this, but let's go to like the services or the about page. Okay, it just has a rich text area. Now I can just go drop a Jumbotron on there. So I can say, this is what the about us page. I can put some links in, whatever, save that now, and I can put an image in. Okay, I'll move that to the top. Refresh my content. Looks like the change came through. Let's go to my About Us page. And it should just work. I hope. Boom, it did not because I didn't fill out the links and I forgot to do the checks for links. Doggone it. I should have an iffer on this, or I can just get me lazy and go fill out the links. 111/2. When you don't know what to type, value seems to be invalid. How would you know that it's invalid? Maybe it looks. I don't know what I did wrong there. Okay. One more shot. I'm almost done. You guys have been great. And then it loads. So I've got these reusable pieces of logic that now, as a developer, my time is super well spent, because I can build these things once, and if I do it right, then no matter what content gets put into there, it just works, and you kind of hand off the responsibility to your content team, as opposed to you as a developer having to do all that work. So that's pretty much it. Let me just jump back to my agenda to see that I went through everything in my README. I think we went through all the stuff. How Next.js works, dynamic pages, SEO, how preview works. Preview I didn't get into too much, but we'll leave that for another time. We updated the Jumbotron, looked at the global header and SEO for posts. So we did a lot of great stuff. The one thing we didn't get too much into was preview mode. I will leave that for now. Hopefully, if you take this example, it will just continue to work for you. But if you do have questions, I'm happy to answer those as they come out. Let's just go back to the old PowerPoint here. So, follow along in the journey. So Agility is at Agility CMS, Vercel at Vercel, and me at Joel Vardy on Twitter. That's the best place to get a hold of me, to send feedback, follow me for more workshops. We'll be doing probably 200 level workshops. So this was like a 101, first year university. We'll do sort of the 200 level ones moving further along to get a little bit deeper into some more complex examples as we move forward. But this has been a great chance to look at Next.js, to look at Vercel, get you going with what really used to be a really complex DevOps setup. If you're working in like Azure, to get that set up in Azure DevOps, not easy. You're looking at Docker container for preview. You're looking at like an Azure DevOps pipeline for the build, which you can do. It works. It's not that hard, but why do all that work when Vercel gives it to you like for free? And then literally it is free to get started. Like I didn't pay for any of what you just saw there. And then as the site ramps up, you can put your DNS on there. You can, and as it gets to be bigger, you can, pay for more features and I think for performance and some, you get more nines basically with Vercel, but really amazing service on top of a great platform for Next. So that being said, continue learning. This is part of the Agility Days, basically replacing our in-person summit that we had planned for June this year, that we've moved everything online and kind of spread it out. So go to agilitycms.com/events to register for more as they come up. This has been awesome. Thanks for sticking around, everybody, and more later. Take care.